Hi everybody, Carol here. Today I'm going to be making another impossible card. Those are the last two that I've made, and if you haven't seen them, you might want to go back and look at them. And that's how it twists and turns. I call that one Vacation and the other one Sunburst. So I make a 5x7 card in landscape style. So I just made these little templates to mark my corner. The top half flap, I mark 1 3/4 inch tabs on either side. The bottom half, I just mark the middle at 3.5. Now I'm scoring right here, but it's between those two tab lines. I'm not scoring anywhere else. I was just getting the groove line, but putting no pressure. So on the bottom flap, I cut at the 3.5 inch mark, and on the other flap I've cut at 1 3/4 inch, but you can do whatever you want to do. There's no hard and fast rule about that. You cut to the center, or at least I do on this card, which is the 2.5 inch mark, half of 5x7, and on that score line I fold that back, but it will fold backwards and forwards. If you bring it forward, push the bottom rectangle on the right backwards and flip the tab forward. You just make a flip and that centerpiece pops up, and that's where it gets its name, because it doesn't seem that could all be from one piece of paper. So if you need to erase, you can do that. And then I cut a bunch of pattern paper. I haven't worked with pattern paper on this yet. That was the pattern pack I had. It's called Prince Pack, and I had them all stacked up. You might not can tell, it looks a little confusing there, but I know what it is. I have one stack of papers in the upper left-hand corner for the upper left-hand corner of my card. The ones on the bottom right are for the bottom right of the card. I have already glued them all with the Tombow Monomulti repositionable glue and let them dry so that they are repositionable. I also used on every single one of these squares some neutral ink that I put on with the makeup sponge, and just go around the edges to give it a finished off look and a kind of a frame. I also want to be sure I hit those corners, and I will put it down for you and zoom in so you can see the difference. If whether you think it's worth the work, it's not. It goes very fast, but I think it gives it such a better finished look. But I used this pattern paper and 3 colors plus white, and worked with stacking them. I didn't have any particular measurement, just each successive one a little bit smaller than the other, or a little bit larger, whichever way you're coming from. But so here's the first one. I put it down. Then I'm following with a piece of white. I broke up some of the paper with a little bit of white, so just a very small white line shows, and it just kind of gives an added dimension and breaks up the colors and sets them apart and sets them off. Now here's the middle piece I had already glued together, and it's kind of your centerpiece, kind of your focal point. And I had to lift the flap up where I could see the edge of the paper, and doing some tweaking and adjusting here. Then put this sentiment on there. It's not really a sentiment, it's a saying. It has enjoy. I guess it's a sentiment. Imagine. It comes rather from this stamp set called Natural Beauty. I used every single one of those stamps, and I stamped them on with VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and cut them each one out. I won't bore you with the cutting out, but just showing you that this is the process. Now, instead of using the white, I also cut this out of a neutral color, kind of a light brown, and put that on there. I was going for a kind of a muted, subtle color palette that I end up changing, as you will see here in just a little while. But so I'm continuing the stacking in each corner, and putting the different colors, blue, pink, green, with the white. Now I've got to flip that, because this is the part that is going to be showing, And so then I'm putting the bottom right tab with some blue and a piece of white. And then the top, I'm going to use 2 different stacks. Now there's my pink. Again, pink, blue, green. And now I'm putting a solid piece back there, but then I'm going to put a little rectangle, kind of a skinny rectangle of green on the right and some pink on the left. But I'll flip it around. I'll make it a little easier to get to. And then a piece of white on top of that. Then I do have to straighten it a little bit there. Now I'll go back later also and change that pink, and you'll see why in just a minute. Not the color, but the size. Now this was one of the stamps, and I cut it out and to match the bird, but then I also stamped it on a white piece of paper, and that's kind of an off-white, slightly different, and glued those on there to give some dimension to that, or variety. The leaf up in the left corner and the little flower down in the right corner, and then the moth. And I'll put it on with some tweezers so I can see it a little better. And that finished it off. Now I decided to change, as I said a while ago. I took the brown bird off, had another one on white, and colored it to kind of make it a little bit like a blue bird. I was trying to keep the color scheme on his chest there to also kind of go with the pattern paper. So, and then any little white space down around his little bitty legs, I colored in with the blue pencil to match the background. Then I thought, well, I'll do the pink on the brown flower down there and kind of tie it together, but it just didn't work for me. So I cut out another piece of white flower and colored it pink, and basically just glued it in the middle. The edges are still kind of free if you want to have a little dimension there. But I'll show you where I got it. I'd stamped that off and just colored it and then cut it out. And that's how it fit on that piece of paper. So, and I like it better. I like the other just fine, but I like this better. Now, this A7 envelope will perfectly hold a 5x7 card. You could slide it in like that with instructions on how to flip it to make it the impossible card, or you can go ahead and open it up, flip that back panel back, and slide it in like that. Either way, you might want to put some instructions on what makes this an impossible card and how it works. Now, if you wanted to use this for a Mother's Day card, you would have some space, or whatever, really, a birthday card, whatever you want to send it for. You've got a little space above that flower where you could write just mom or something simple. You could flip it over on the back side and write what you wanted to, because that might be face down most of the time and most people wouldn't read it. You could write on the back of the bird with that white space, or if you don't want anything to show at all, if you just slip in a separate personal note. Now on this, since I was working with the pattern paper, normally that centerpiece had, the other cards I've made have had quite a bit of cardstock on front. This didn't, and so it was a little weak, and I wanted to bolster that up. The same thing with that pink. I told you a while ago I made some changes because the pink needed to be closer to the center card to give it some support. It just was kind of falling over, so I put it all the way to the edge of that center to give it some support. And then just transferred the moth on this little white sheet of paper right back, and it really made a difference. See how that stands up? I could still go back and put some white cardstock under that green polka dot paper on the bottom left, because it's still a little unsupported on the front there. But it makes a difference, and you don't really know until you work with these different mediums which ones are going to hold up and which ones aren't. They're different, and that's just fine. So here I am, just putting them all three together. That's, of course, the original brown bird, and it is, the top you can see is kind of falling over. But I just wanted you to see them all together. I hope you enjoyed. I think I might just start a series of these impossible cards because they're so versatile and fun to work with. But here's the new bird, and I'll show you these still shots, and I hope you enjoyed. It's been a lot of fun, and it's worth the try. So thanks for joining me. At the end, there will be some more videos listed and a chance to subscribe if you want to. Thanks again so much. See you later. Bye-bye.